Hello, welcome to this Vince Live tutorial. This video is the first in a three-part series on customer-defined fields. Customer-defined fields are very powerful and flexible, and understanding how they work and how you can access and manipulate this information can really turbocharge your M3 experience. In this first part, we're going to review how customer-defined fields are configured in M3 and how you can view these fields in your M3 panels. The other two videos show you how you can build Vince workflows to export and import customer-defined fields using Vince Live. Customer-defined fields are also known as the QGEX or QGEX fields because they're stored in tables called CUGEX 1, 2, and 3. In this series of videos, I will demonstrate how to set up customer-defined fields, how you can display them in your panels in M3, and how you can export and import them using Vince workflows. Once you understand how customer-defined fields are organized, it's actually quite simple to use them. So, let's begin. Some of you may already be familiar with customer-defined fields. Some of you might not have even heard of customer-defined fields before, so for some of you, a lot of this will be review of what you already know, and for others, this may seem like a lot of information, but hopefully everyone will find something useful and informative in this series of videos. Let's start this video in M3. Customer-defined fields, or QGEX fields, as I'll typically refer to them, are defined in a panel called CMS 080. I'm here in our Vince demo environment, and you can see that we have several customer-defined fields already set up. In this video, I'm only going to demonstrate QGEX 1 fields, which are customer-defined fields that are tied to or referenced to a table in M3. I'll save QGEX 2 and QGEX 3 for another time. It is very common for M3 customers to attach QGEX 1 style customer-defined fields to what I would call fundamental business objects in M3 like customer or item. And you can see here our demo environment has several fields that are tied to the mitmaß or item table and the okuzma or customer table. In order to create a new QGEX 1 customer-defined field, you need to know what table your customer-defined field is associated with. In M3, the customer-defined fields can be tied to nearly any table, but not all of them. A limitation that will become clear when we take a look at the makeup of the QGEX 1 table in Metadata Publisher. But really, almost any table you want to assign customer-defined fields to is available. Going to the Metadata Publisher, if we take a look at QGEX 1 table, we can see a whole bunch of columns here, and they're named somewhat generically. This single table is where all of the customer-defined fields are stored for all tables in your M3 environment. Customer-defined fields tied to item or mitmaß will be found here in the same table as customer-defined fields tied to customer or okuzma. Because this table is so flexible, the columns are named generically. There is some organization to the columns, and understanding how the columns are organized is helpful. Let's start with the column called Table. This column described which table the customer-defined fields are associated with. So, in the case of a mitmaß customer-defined field, the table column would be populated literally with mitmaß, the name of the table. For customer-based customer-defined fields, okuzma will be the value in the table column. Now, after the table column, we see 8 primary key columns here. The primary key columns allow M3 to connect a row in the QGEX table to a single record in the table referenced by the table column. Again, taking our mitmaß and okuzma examples, since the key of mitmaß is item number or ITNO, every customer-defined field record in QGEX 1 tied to the mitmaß table will have the item number populated in the primary key 1 column. Not ITNO exactly, but the actual item number. A customer-defined field tied to okuzma will have the customer number, or CUNO, populated in the primary key 1 column. Again, not literally CUNO, but the actual customer number. For mitmaß and okuzma table rows, the other primary key columns will be empty. That's because they only need one primary key to describe a item or a customer. This allows M3 to store all of the customer-defined fields that are attached to a single item or a single customer, etc., in a single row in the QGEX 1 table. The table column is a reference to a table name, but the PK columns refer to a row in that table. Now, for other tables that have more complex primary keys, like for example the MIT ball or item warehouse table, you might have two primary keys, the ITNO and WHLO. And other tables have even more columns that make up the primary key of the table, so more QGEX primary key columns would be needed to fill in to describe those fields. It's kind of crazy, but there are some tables that have more than 8 columns that make up the primary key of the table. Therefore, those tables are not eligible for customer-defined fields. But in my experience, most people using QGEX 1 tend to attach the customer-defined fields to tables that have 1 or 2 primary keys. In our example, we're going to work with our customer-defined fields in OCUSMA, just to keep things simple. Looking at the rest of the table definition though, you can see that down here, we've got a bunch of alpha fields and we've got numeric fields, and then down here we've got some alphanumeric fields and some yes/no Boolean fields. This means for every table record, M3 offers 10 30-character alpha customer-defined fields, 10 numeric customer-defined fields, and 3 much longer alphanumeric fields, one of 256 and 2 of 120 characters. So you essentially have access to 33 customer-defined fields for every table that allows it in QGEX 1. So it's a lot, but it's not unlimited. I've seen instances where companies are running up into the limit of how many customer-defined fields they have on a particular table. So it's smart to do some planning and retain some control over when to assign these fields to a particular table. The 120 and 256 character length fields are particularly precious, so only use them if you really need that length. Now, going back to the CMS 080 panel, I can show you that in our Vince demo environment, we've got some QGEX 1 fields on MITMOS and OCUSMA and some other tables. So we've already defined some OCUSMA customer-defined values. I've got a customer code, a VAT code, something called free text, something called onsdag, which I think means Wednesday in Norwegian, and something called the EAN field. The field value is telling me which QGEX 1 columns I will put this data into. So F1A030 for that customer code, F1A256 for the free text, for example, and F1N096 for that EAN field. These codes are telling me that the customer code is one of the alpha 30 character fields, and free text is that 256 character field, and the EAN field is one of the numeric fields. Let's go ahead and add a Boolean field to our OCUSMA table. I do that by typing in OCUSMA into the table field and skipping the cust_ref_ext field, which is used for QGEX 2 and 3 customer-defined fields. Search for one of the Boolean field names by using the Browse feature. Let's grab that first available Boolean field, FICHB1. Click the Add icon, give it a description, and select the field category Bool, and click Next to save it. Now I can see this new customer-defined field added to OCUSMA. So, at this point we have described a few of the available customer-defined fields attached to OCUSMA, but we do have quite a few others available for future use. But how to use these and actually populate the customer-defined fields? If we want to see these customer-defined fields in M3, we can do so. Knowing that OCUSMA is tied to the customer master, we can customize our CRS 610 panel, the customer panel, to view and edit these fields. Let's navigate to CRS 610 and do just that. Viewing the customer-defined fields in the panel is straightforward. Pull up any record in 610 in this case, right-click, and then go down to Personalize, and over all the way down here to Custom Fields. Now, it'll show me on the right-hand side any customer-defined fields that I don't have displayed in my panel. It'll also show me the ones I do have displayed. So, in this case, I have free text, VAT code, and customer code displayed, but onsdag and EAN field are not displayed. I can have them displayed in the individual panels, or I can display them in the header as well, so that they show up in all the panels. So, let's put that EAN field in the panel header, and pull in that new Boolean field, and click Save. So this is one way to display the customer-defined fields in M3. Now, to a lot of you, you've already done this, so this might be old hat. The question you're probably having is, okay, well, how do I get this information exported and imported via Vince Live? In the next video, I'll show you how to do just that using these Okuzma fields. I hope you found this customer-defined fields overview helpful. Stay tuned for the next part where we show you how to build a Vince Live workflow to display this information. Thanks.